All right, welcome to another episode of Key Biscayne Stories where neighbors meet neighbors. Today we have Kathie Klarreich, a Key Biscayne resident for over 28 years. Today we're going to talk about her nonprofit called Exchange for Change, where she teaches writing, leadership, and communication skills to incarcerated people. Before we do that, we have a quick word from our sponsors. Dr. Bakash has been in practice as an orthodontist for over a decade, helping to create beautiful smiles in the Key Biscayne community. She's inspired by her patients to do her job better every day and to continually learn new methods of treatment to improve the care she gives. Dr. Vakash enjoys using her knowledge of science and engineering to make a positive difference in the life of her patients. She built her career as an orthodontist on a foundation of quality education. She received her certificate of orthodontics and a master's degree in medical science from Harvard University. Dr. Bakash is a member of the American Dental Association, the American Association of Orthodontics, and the Harvard Society for Advancements of Orthodontics, and is also a certified Invisalign provider. At Bakash Orthodontics, we provide the highest quality orthodontics treatment and Invisalining for children and adults. We are conveniently located in the heart of Key Biscayne at 240 Crandon Boulevard, Suite 106. Kathie, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us on
Happy
the
to
show.
be here. Thanks for inviting me.
We met in the past, but we recently reconnected through the Key Biscayne Community Foundation's grant award ceremony. So that was nice to see you there. So before we talk about Exchange for Change, we like to talk a little bit about that background story of how did you end up on the Key? Okay, let's start from there.
So I actually landed here after having lived and worked in Haiti, and I needed to get out quickly because of a situation having been held up at gunpoint for the third time, and I had two kids and just felt like it wasn't safe anymore. So I came to Key Biscayne, even though I had a place in San Francisco, because it was much quicker and easier. I got my kids in school. That was back in 1998, and I've had my house ever since.
So Haiti, what exactly were you doing in Haiti?
I was a journalist working in Haiti. I went to Haiti again in a very circuitous route to buy handicrafts for a store that I was running in San Francisco because at the time was one of the few things that Haiti actually had to export. And it was right after the fall of the Duvalier dictatorship, and things were looking really positive, which is just about as opposite as it can get now, except for the World Cup. Haiti's in there for first time in 50 years.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up giving up my house. I leased out my home in San Francisco and had somebody run my store for a couple months. I wanted to spend 3 months in Haiti looking for handicrafts. And not even a week after I got there, the government was overthrown. And I had a decision to make. I could either stay and get involved in whatever was going on or go back to San Francisco, except that I didn't have a house to go back to. And as my mother said at the time, well, either get involved or get out. And so I got involved and I ended up becoming a journalist and staying for 10 years. Then I came back to Key Biscayne, actually, and I stayed here for about 10 years. And then the earthquake happened in 2010, the first really big earthquake. I ended up going back to Haiti as a journalist, stayed for 3 years, and then came back here, and I've been here ever since.
So as a journalist in Haiti, you were covering Haiti in all things Haiti, or?
Yeah, I was always a freelancer. I started out in print and radio. I ended up doing quite a bit of radio. This is when we still had like 30-second spots and 60-second spots from foreign correspondents. This is before social media took over everything. And then I ended up working for television. So I covered just about everything. Being someone who was living there, I had access to a lot of stories. I spoke the language, understood the culture, and then I ended up working for a lot of the media who came down that needed someone.
They just contact you and say, I need a piece on this, and
Yeah,
then
my main string at the time was the Christian Science Monitor. during the really difficult years after the overthrow of the government in 1991. I mostly worked for NBC. When I went back in 2010, I worked for ABC. I've worked for Time Magazine. That was another one of my main strings, and then newspapers as needed.
Do you know Ines from the Rotary Club?
Yes, of course. I know David from her husband.
Uh-huh.
I know Ines now because David Adams um, came to Haiti a lot. So
Yeah,
yeah.
he just did. I'm not a Rotarian, but I attended a lot of their meetings, and I attended his talk on the latest on Haiti, and of course Ines has the Fly High for Haiti initiative where she supports students there. So awesome. So exchange for change. I guess as I mentioned at the beginning, writing, leadership, and communication skills for incarcerated people. I guess the natural first question is, what is inspiration? How did that start?
So it was important that I give you the background of my being in Haiti because that actually informed what I'm doing now. Um, I think it was around 2009. I was mostly working for Time Magazine. I was I wasn't happy, covering the stories that I was doing. I remember that story when I had to do, like, a Britney Spears lookalike. I thought, "No, I don't want to do this anymore." And I wanted to use my love of Haiti and the culture and the language, but not in Little Haiti because it had there's a lot of Haitians that can work in Little Haiti. So I had gone to a performance in the women's prison down in Homestead, probably back in 2001. And I thought, there are incarcerated Haitian women. I'm a journalist. I'm a writer. Let me see if I can go in with that organization that had invited me almost a decade earlier and see if I can teach writing for Haitian women in Creole. They thought it was a great idea. Not enough Haitian women signed up, so I started teaching just a general writing course, and that was in 2009. And then the earthquake happened in January of 2010, and I ended up, as I said in the beginning, going back to Haiti. And I stayed for about 3 years. I stayed with ABC for about 6 or 8 months, and then I got a Knight International Journalism Fellowship to train Haitian journalists in investigative reporting. And it was pretty life-changing going back and living in a country that I knew so well after the earthquake because it was centered in Port-au-Prince, which is where I had lived and where I had my home, and everything was different. So my life was really, really turned upside down. I learned a lot from the fellowship. Then I came back to the States, and I went back into the prison, and honestly, it was, jarring because whereas nothing in my life was seen through the same lens, I walked back into the prison and women were wearing the same uniform, walking on the same right side of the yellow line. Everything seemed very routine. And I thought that can't be true. Their lives also may have been overturned in ways that we don't know because what do we know about the lives of people in prison? They're deliberately not in our visual sight, right? They're usually tucked away. The only thing we generally hear is when someone's committed a crime and is incarcerated, or if someone gets out and commits a crime, but we don't really know what goes on the day to day. And as a journalist, I was really tired of telling other people's stories. And I saw this as an amazing opportunity to have them tell their own stories. So, one of the first things that happened, again, not with any foresight, is a professor from Florida Atlantic University got in touch and she said, I have these students, we're reading The Rhetoric of Incarceration, writing by and about women in prison. How about if my students correspond with your students? And it was a really interesting concept, except that I knew the Department of Corrections wouldn't let them just have a correspondence like that. So she and I got together and we talked about creating a system where they would go through us, but that they would um, pick a passage from something that she had assigned. Both sets of students would read it. They would write a response to it, and then they would exchange papers. And this began this incredible conversation between students at Florida Atlantic University and women incarcerated in the prison. That was the genesis for what then became Exchange for Change. It was this idea of exchanging ideas and opinions with people on the outside and people on the inside. So in 2014, I started Exchange for Change, not in the women's prison, but in one prison right across the way at Dade Correctional Institution, 17 students. And by the time COVID hit, we were teaching 33 classes, and it expanded to a bunch of other state prisons, federal prisons, and juvenile residential centers.
So since you couldn't have them send letters, right? It goes to you. And how does that happen?
So she would it's facts. She would scan them to me, and I would print them out, and I would bring them inside, and I would scan my students' letters to her, and she would distribute them to her students.
Okay.
We've evolved, right? We don't need the we have a different system now.
So how does a day of Exchange for Change look like for you when you go physically to the to
So maybe to back up a little bit, so we had reached about 33 classes per
Okay.
semester, and we divide our
Oh.
classes into semesters, and that was in order to accommodate the universities that we were pairing with, right? So currently we still have 3 semesters. We have a fall and a spring, and those are generally 12 to 14 weeks. And we're just starting our summer session this coming Monday. And we are currently in 5, about to be in 6 state prisons, but I'm gonna talk about the 2 that are in Miami. So we're at Homestead Correctional, which is for women, and for people familiar with this area, it's right down the street from Robert is Here. And then we're at Everglades Correctional, which is out by the Miccosukee. So 2 different directions. The prison out by the Miccosukee is called Everglades Correctional Institution, and that's a male prison. We
Okay.
reach about 350 students per semester in South Florida. Between those 2 institutions, we're at a juvenile residential center called South Florida Youth Academy and at the county jails, and we're currently in Turner Guilford Night. So we have a bunch of facilitators that teach for us, and the vast majority come from universities or they're retired professionals. And we're really proud of the fact that about 90 to 95% of them are volunteer. So this semester, I think we have 20 classes. Summer is usually smaller. We have about 10% of the entire population of Everglades, which is 175 students signed up for our classes there, and about
Mhm.
100 and I think 30, I don't know the actual count yet until we start next week, at the women's prison. So a typical day for me, I still teach, but I oversee the program. So let's take Wednesdays, because Wednesdays are my busiest day. So I try to get to Everglades at 10 o'clock. And from 10 to 11, I meet with what we call the Student Leadership Council. So the student body elects incarcerated students, their peers, to represent them. And each one of those men or women are assigned to an outside facilitator, kind of like a teaching assistant. So they're always there when someone from the outside comes in and teaches. They help with attendance, they explain the assignments if people don't understand them. So I meet with them for an hour, find out how the classes are going, what needs to get done, what can we do to help them. And then from 11 to 1, I teach a class. And I've taught a lot of things over the years. I'm doing something different this summer. I'm teaching the same class twice at Everglades. So I teach it on Mondays and Wednesdays, 2 hours each. And it's called Writing from the Bone. And I've asked for serious students who want to be published so that we can really do a deep dive into their pieces to try and get their voices out. And then I drive almost an hour over to Homestead. And from 2 to 3, I meet with the Student Leadership Council there. And then I teach my class there from 3 to 5. And then I'm burnt, and then I come home.
So you mentioned multiple university partners. So what are some of those
So University of
universities?
Miami, I think
Okay.
our biggest partner currently is Florida International University. We have a lot of professors from there. One of the deans is on our board. We work with their criminal justice student group. We also work with Miami-Dade College, their math group, their math club. I can explain it, but we have a program that works with their math club
Okay. Yeah.
and Florida Atlantic University. So 4 institutions that are down here.
Dr. Bakash has been in practice as an orthodontist for over a decade, helping to create beautiful smiles in the Key Biscayne community. She's inspired by her patients to do her job better every day and to continually learn new methods of treatment to improve the care she gives. Dr. Bakash enjoys using her knowledge of science and engineering to make a positive difference in the life of her patients. She built her career as an orthodontist on a foundation of quality education. She received her certificate of orthodontics and a master's degree in medical science from Harvard University. Dr. Bakash is a member of the American Dental Association, the American Association of Orthodontics, and the Harvard Society for Advancements of Orthodontics, and is also a certified Invisalign provider. At Bakash Orthodontics, we provide the highest quality orthodontics treatment and Invisaligning for children and adults. We are conveniently located in the heart of Key Biscayne at 240 Crandon Boulevard, Suite 106. So going back to the university partners, the university partners provide the teachers.
Provide the teachers, and then if they're doing an exchange class, their students
Okay.
in the class that they teach are the ones that
Okay.
exchange with our students. And through that, Alejandro, it's been really interesting because people switch their majors. They end up interning for us. I mean, it can be very life-changing for them. And we have 2 opportunities for community members to come inside. So we have graduations at the end of each semester
Right.
where our students perform, and it's a big deal. The Student Leadership Council does the whole thing. They put together the program. They are the MCs. There's like it's a whole big thing. So we can invite community members in. So sometimes people bring friends and then they're like, "Oh my God, this is so interesting." And then they want to volunteer with us. And then we have another opportunity called Prison Visits for Change. And we partner with an organization called the Frederick Douglass Project for Justice. And that's just a one-off. It's an afternoon where you come in. We can bring up to 15 people at a time. They do a little icebreaker with 15 of our students. And then they break up and they're given prompts. Most of the time, they don't pay attention to the prompts. They just start talking. And for anywhere from an hour to an hour and 15, an hour, 30 minutes, they sit and have a conversation. Then we come back to the table and people do like reflections and then they go home. So we've also gotten a lot of volunteers and instructors and even people who've applied for jobs through the prison visits.
Wow. Wow.
And let me just note, we are a staff of 2.5.
Okay. 2.5 people.
Yeah. We've got 2 part-time. I'm part-time now. I'm the executive director, but I'm trying to wean my way out, and we have a full-time operations manager.
Wow. And the impact again, it was 33 classes, 175 students this semester coming up
175, that's just at one institution.
at one institution.
Yeah.
Ah, so in the whole picture, then it will be, what are the numbers?
We reach about 700 students
That's
a
right.
year.
That's right. That's right. Oh man.
Since we started, and we're just about to start our 13th year, we've reached about 2,000 students. We've trained probably 150 facilitators to go in and teach. I can say honestly, I don't ever remember a university professor not saying that they would prefer to teach inside any day over where they teach, because all of our students who come really want to be there and they're there solely to learn. I mean, they don't get a grade, they don't get college certificate, although Florida International University gives our students continuing education units, which looks very good if you're going to go in front of a parole board or you're trying to get resentenced, but it's not like you're getting a college degree.
Okay, but it's still cool. In I guess inside the teaching happens in a classroom setting, very similar, like in a meeting room, or how does that work?
Ideally, we would be in a classroom. Everglades Correctional is what's called an incentivized prison, which means that it's a prison where people have not gotten in trouble for the last 3 years, so they don't care what you did or how long your sentence is, they just care that you're not getting in trouble, and as a result of that, they have a couple extra days of visitation, they have more relaxed uniforms, they have a game room, and they have programs. So space for programs is really limited. So we teach sometimes in the library. I mean, in the beginning, I was teaching in the closet, basically, just because we didn't have space. So we're limited much more by the space than we are the capacity to teach. Very few of our classes are actually taught in a real classroom.
Can we dive a little bit into each one of the focuses? How does writing look like, leadership and communications?
Yeah. So we started off traditionally with fiction, nonfiction, and poetry, the genres that people are really familiar with. But over the years, what we recognized is that the inside population is just a microcosm of the outside population, so their interests are just as varied. So this semester, we're teaching Shakespeare, memoir, um, writing in community spaces, how to get published, journalism, right? It's the gamut. So that's really, it allows someone to think about communicating in a different way. So if your trigger is what got you in prison and you're getting out, we teach a class called the Trauma Toolbox, right? It gives you opportunities to think about other ways to express yourself so that your trigger isn't going to land you back in prison if you come back in. Communication happens in the classroom. So I said in the beginning the idea of exchange for change was outside and inside exchange of ideas. But what we also have seen is that the communication inside the classroom allows people who might otherwise never have spoken to each other, and I'm talking gang related, right? The Crips and the Bloods, talking about literature. And then they're back out on the compound, and leaders of these gangs are having conversations based on literature, and gang members are looking and trying to figure out what's going on. And so there is more of a common ground. We saw it with the transgender population, people who were either racist or sexist or homophobic. Inside the classroom, it's a safe space. And so the idea of taking that atmosphere out onto the compound can actually change the nature of the compound. And then leadership is through this Student Leadership Council, which allows people to get more involved and take on leadership roles.
What kind of leadership roles are there?
Well, they're like teaching assistants, right? And they run our special programs. Um, they teach. So, for example, we are now in Central Florida at 3 different institutions that are sort of all right around the corner. Those all happened because we've been teaching so long that our students get transferred. They go to institutions outside of our area, and they write us and they say, "Bring exchange for change here." And so they start teaching for us because they
Nice.
understand the culture. We send them curriculum, and that's how we got to other institutions. Avon Park has been going on since 2020, when probably one of our brightest students and also a member of the Student Leadership Council single-handedly got the program going, and they've got 5 classes a week.
So this student teaches internally.
He teaches
Be-
internally. He's
He's
incarcerated,
uh-huh.
and other, we call them alumni from Exchange for Change that got transferred, have now joined his group, and so they're also teaching. So all of the students at Avon Park that were in our leadership council that got transferred are now teaching for us.
So you have a mix of teachers from universities which you partner with and students that are incarcerated teaching classes
Exactly.
and pioneering this in some of the new jails that have been transferred to
Yes.
incarceration centers
Yeah.
or compounds,
Uh, State prisons.
state prisons.
Yeah.
Sorry,
And a lot of people don't know the difference between a jail and a prison.
I do not because
Okay.
I've been using them in my notes interchangeably. Tell
So,
us.
when you're first arrested, you go to jail,
Okay.
right? And you're not guilty yet, right? So you go to a county jail,
Okay.
and Turner Guilford Night is a county jail. And then when you go to be sentenced, you get moved to a pretrial detention center, and then you go to court. This is generally speaking, there's always exceptions.
All right.
Once you're sentenced, you get sent to prison. So prison is when you've been sentenced, you basically know how long you're going to be there. Jail is a whole different thing. It might take 2 years for your case to come to court. You don't have bail,
Wow.
so you stay in jail.
Okay. That's no bail for jail. That's the standard. Okay. So when you see in the movies,
That's why people, they want to
bond
get
set
bail.
at,
They're all right across from the jails, right? So people can bond them out.
and that's when you get a bond, it's because you're ready. You're going to prison.
No, it's because you haven't been tried yet, and you can stay outside of jail until you go to court.
That's what the bond is for.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Right.
I
So
did
if
not
you
know that.
skip
I did not know.
bail,
Uh-huh.
right, and you put up $50,000, you don't want to go to court, but you're going to lose your $50,000, and probably somebody put it up for you.
Okay. Okay. But all of the exchange for change happens in
In
prison.
prisons, and we are doing currently one class in jail.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to say, although the 3 pillars are writing, communication, and leadership, what we found unexpectedly over the years were what we're sort of grouping as wellness classes. So we teach mindful meditation, breathing techniques. We've taught yoga. And we have one professor from Miami-Dade College who's been teaching his mindful meditation so long that tomorrow he is starting a 18-week course to train the trainers so that everybody he accepts into his course takes a pledge that they will go back to their dorms and teach women in their dorms the mindful meditation class to try and give people alternatives to removing themselves mentally from the chaos of what happens inside the dorms.
Wow. I like how this has grown.
Yeah.
And from when you first started all the way to now having students teach class internally, which is awesome. Is there another part of your mission that we haven't talked about yet?
The second part of our mission is to bring the voice of the incarcerated out to the public. And I said in the beginning that I was tired of telling people's stories, which you do as a journalist. And this was a real opportunity to have people tell their own stories. And I learned this from when I tried to train Haitian journalists in investigative reporting. And that was my mission that was given to me. But in fact, the Haitian journalists could have cared less about investigative reporting, right? Their country had just fallen apart. Their own lives, their livelihood, their homes, everything crumbled. And here we're telling them, oh, go out and investigate where this money from international sources is going. Well, the only ones who really cared about that were the people who were donating the money. And so it was the foreign journalists that wanted to cover it, not the Haitian journalists. They didn't want to put their lives in danger. They didn't want to create problems where there weren't any. And when I left, the program fell apart. So what I best understood from that was in forming Exchange for Change, I wanted to make sure that they were telling their own stories and they were included in the conversation about how we put the organization together. So we've gone through variations. We have some restrictions from the Department of Corrections that it's not allowing us to do some of the things that we want to do, but there are lots of opportunities for our incarcerated students to submit their writings to other publications. We had a publication, we had 5 editions of a publication that we're not currently allowed to release, but the Society for Professional Journalists picked up the slack. They sent out their own call for submissions, and so students, incarcerated people anywhere in the state of Florida could submit. The book is just about to come out, I think, next week. You can probably get it eventually on Amazon, I'm not quite sure, but we have 40 some students who are published in that edition, and we're super proud of that because those stories come from the heart. What most people think they know about people inside prisons come from shows like Orange is the New Black or from CSI or a variety of films, television shows, interviews. And what I have found is the vast majority made a mistake. And I am in no way downplaying the harm that their mistake caused. They left people's lives in shatters. But someone who's been in for 40 years has learned a lot about who they are. The first couple years may be a different story, but I have a guy in there since 1978. He's an older gentleman, right? He wants to just live the rest of his life in peace. There are people that probably need to spend quite a bit of time in prison, but we have no way for people with life sentences to get out in the state of Florida. There's no parole. So if you're sentenced to life now, that's it. And it's my feeling that people do change. Again, I'm not in any way diminishing the harm that they caused, especially if they took a life. But the vast majority of them who've been in, I think our system needs to create an opportunity for them to be able to come out. And their punishment is that they've been locked up. But their punishment shouldn't be that they don't have accesses to the same human rights that we all have, access to education. We certainly saw it during COVID, right? We had many students that died during COVID. Lack of health care, lack of ability to separate. By nature of an institution, everybody's bunched together. So I've learned a lot. I feel like I learn every time I go inside, and my life is so much more enriched, I think, by my having had this opportunity than by an actual student taking our courses. Although I'd like to think they had an impact, right? But I'm confident to say that everybody who works with us and goes inside comes out a changed person.
So these courses, you mentioned Creole at the beginning. Did you do them in Creole?
No, in the end, I don't do them in Creole, although I'm friends now with a lot of Haitians who are incarcerated, and so we speak Creole because I love to speak Creole, but no, we don't teach in Creole.
What other languages do you teach?
So we're now teaching a bunch of courses in Spanish, and we're really excited because we're expanding our Spanish program. And then the one other course that I think would be really interesting for your listeners is that we teach law. So we have a professor from University of Miami for many years has been teaching legal writing, and now she just did oral arguments. And we have someone else from the Key, and maybe after she does her first class, she'll want to come on.
Yeah.
She's a retired lawyer, professor, and she's going to be teaching ethics in law and business with her brother. And she's starting her first semester at Everglades, for the summer.
Yeah, I'll be happy to have her in the future. Kathie, thank you so much for jumping on the show. Before we end, I do have a question. What is your favorite part of Key Biscayne?
The fact that I can walk everywhere. I spend hours in the car, and when I pull up Friday night, my car is parked, and if I don't have to get in the car until Monday, I am so happy. I love the fact that nature is right out my door. I can walk everywhere, and it's accessible. Everything is right here. I I love this community.
Awesome. Kathie, thank you again for taking the time to come on the show and share your story and teaching us about exchange for change. I'll share your information when we publish so that people can reach out and um and support in any way.
Tell them to come on a prison visit or come to a graduation to check out our website, and we'll have information about how they can come inside and see for themselves.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Kathie.
Thank you.
Dr. Bakash has been in practice as an orthodontist for over a decade, helping to create beautiful smiles in the Key Biscayne community. She's inspired by her patients to do her job better every day and to continually learn new methods of treatment to improve the care she gives. Dr. Bakash enjoys using her knowledge of science and engineering to make a positive difference in the life of her patients. She built her career as an orthodontist on a foundation of quality education. She received her certificate of orthodontics and a master's degree in medical science from Harvard University. Dr. Bakash is a member of the American Dental Association, the American Association of Orthodontics, and the Harvard Society for Advancement of Orthodontics, and is also a certified Invisalign provider. At Bakash Orthodontics, we provide the highest quality orthodontics treatment and Invisaligning for children and adults. We are conveniently located in the heart of Key Biscayne at 240 Crandon Boulevard, Suite 106.